Greetings, my name is Gareth, also known as Electo, from Star Trek Online forums. Back in 1999, a PC game by Microprose called Star Trek The Next Generation, Birth of the Federation was launched. I've been a fan of this game since around 2000, and the one thing that I love about this game is all the micromanagement. Have you ever played Birth of the Federation? If you have never played this game, please check out the info in the Wikipedia link in the description, or check out the videos from this YouTube search. If you have played Birth of the Federation, have you ever considered what Star Trek Online would be like if Cryptic's game had some of the gameplay features from Birth of the Federation? Well, I have. I first started working on the System Summary Concept Beta on the 14th of August 2011, and that concept received constructive feedback which prompted me to adapt that concept for fleets in Star Trek Online. So now I will explain the Fleet Starbase Summary Concept Beta to you in brief. Okay, imagine you've just walked to your Fleet Starbase in Star Trek Online and docked. Once aboard, you use a console to access the Fleet Starbase Summary UI and see the following. The image you see here is the bank screen, which will allow players to deposit or withdraw energy credits or items from a shared bank. If you take a look at the bottom left corner of the image, you'll see the Starbase info, and this states that this Fleet Starbase will generate 10 energy credits per hour, which will be generated into the shared bank. The image you see here is the development screen, which will allow players to choose a structure to fabricate, but only if the player has the required amount of resources. Once the structure has been clicked on, and the player has then clicked on the fabricate button, the structure will be added to the build queue and will be completed after a set amount of hours. However, if you choose to buy the structure, it will be instantly completed. The image you see here is the energy screen, which will allow players to choose a structure to allocate energy to, essentially meaning players can turn structures on or off. The image you see here is the intelligence screen, which will allow players to allocate a percentage of the intelligence points to either internal security, sabotage, or espionage. This part of the Fleet Starbase Summary Concept Beta is directly linked to the duty officer system. If intelligence points are allocated to sabotage or espionage, these points will add to the success rate of duty officers who are sent on sabotage or espionage operations against the enemy fleet starbases. If intelligence points are allocated to internal security, these points will counter the success rate of enemy duty officers who are sent on sabotage or espionage operations against your fleet starbase. If the enemy fleet sends a duty officer who successfully sabotages your fleet starbase, one or more of your structures will be destroyed, and you will have to work with your fleet to quickly fabricate the structures that have been destroyed. Players can also view information on each faction's total fleet starbase statistics, which you can imagine is information gathered by intelligence operations. The image you see here is the production screen, which will allow players to view how much food, industry, energy, intelligence and research is generated, as well as how many structures are available to allocate workers to from the labour pool. Looking at the starbase info, you'll see that the Fleet Starbase has a population of 33,000. To get the number for the labour pool, I divided 33,000 by 50 to get 66. That is the number of points of labour pool this Fleet Starbase has, and each of those points can be allocated to a structure. When a point is allocated to a structure, the structure becomes active. The image you see here is the research screen, which will allow players to allocate research points to specific structures. You can see in this image that 100% research is going towards upgrading Type 8 hydroponics bays to Type 9 hydroponics bays. When that research is complete, hydroponics bays will generate more food. If this Fleet Starbase Summary Concept Beta was implemented into Star Trek Online, we would start with the Type 1 set of structures. The image you see here is the structures screen, which will allow players to view all current structures that have been fabricated and the bonuses those structures provide. Note that players with permission have the option to sell structures. Take a look at the example structures I've created for this concept image, and note the bonuses these structures give to the fleet. The image you see here is the terrarium screen, which will allow players to deposit into or withdraw from a safe and controlled environment specifically for pets, such as tribbles. The image you see here is the Starbase News loading screen, which after loading will allow players to view specific Fleet Starbase news, as well as intelligence reports by clicking on the tabs to the left in the image. MMOs are a battle against time. Every single system and structure must contain that element, and in order to be workable systems, it must be guaranteed that players cannot win the battle against time. In response to this feedback, I have added to this concept that not only can structures be destroyed by enemy fleets via sabotage using the duty officer system, but each structure will also degrade after a long period of time, possibly 6 months, and vanish, at which point the player will be notified that the structure has been dismantled due to degradation over time. I've also added that if the enemy fleet uses espionage against your fleet, there will be a chance that they could steal research data from your fleet, setting back your research, which could result in your structure's type becoming reduced in number. This, I believe, will guarantee that players cannot win the battle against time. The duty officer system will allow for espionage missions at launch, so that could eventually be adapted to allow players to gather all different kinds of data on the targeted enemy fleet starbase, such as the morale or how many hydroponics bays have been fabricated. Morale would be a vital statistic. If it's low, the points generated by your structures will be lower, and there will be a chance that the population aboard your starbase could protest and either strike or sabotage your own structures in an act of terrorism. If morale is high, then the points generated by your structures will be higher. That pretty much wraps everything up. Please discuss this concept constructively. Thanks for your time, and I hope you have found this concept to be interesting.